Welcome to another episode of the Bandage Podcast, a weekly wrap-up of the most trending healthcare news. Each week, join me and my co-host Alex Ross as we'll discuss the latest in healthcare, health IT, and compliance. In this week's episode, we discuss a value-based care agreement, a new first-of-its-kind toothbrush, a health transportation startup, and animal health with a smart Litterbox for cat health. Let's wrap things up. This is episode 15 for the week of January 13th. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Alex Ross.
Before we get started, our diagnosis code of the week is V98.3, Accident 2, on or involving ski lift.
You know, Matt, this has actually happened to me.
Yeah? You're very injury prone.
This is completely true, of course. I like snowboarding, and every winter I try to get out at least once. And there's a ski resort pretty close to us, actually. But I've only been there one time.
Yes.
Because the last time I went there, I broke my wrist.
Okay.
And it was the direct result of deciding that I didn't want to wait until we got to the top of the hill. Where, you know, they have the nice little slope down for you to get off. I'm like, no, right there is gnarly. There's no one on there. And so I simply just like...
Right there is Narnia.
Yeah, exactly. Jumped right off the ski lift thinking, I'm going to hit the nice soft ground and I'm going to slide down the hill with super style. But nobody told me that the place I was landing was actually about 3.5 foot deep. And in that pile of snow was a nice wooden post, which would normally mark the edge of the run. And I caught that right with my hand.
There you go.
It was fun.
The problem
it was a good time.
was you were using a ski lift as a snowboarder.
Exactly. I've been trying to tell them this whole time they need to have two separate lifts for their hills. But
or they could just call it a lift.
Now, this is probably more common.
After all.
This is probably a little more common than it used to be back in the day, because nowadays a lot of ski resorts are opening in the summer for lift access downhill mountain biking. And if you've ever done that, you know that it's very enjoyable because it's all the fun of mountain biking without the work of having to ride your bike up the hill. So, we could see this diagnosis code becoming even more common.
The mountain bike lift.
Yeah. Well, they're really just a ski lift, but they got a place for a bike.
No. And with that, let's get right into the news. First up, we have RideHealth advances to value-based care. RideHealth has advanced to value-based care through an agreement with Cedargate Technologies. With the new agreement, RideHealth will be able to track and measure all risk-based programs on a single system using ISAAC, a Cedargate analytics platform. ISAAC is used to create insights so RideHealth can identify opportunities for change that will improve the financial and clinical performance across all value-based programs. Cedargate systems help clients optimize risk-based contracts, reduce medical spend, improve medical loss ratios, and improve provider network and clinical performance.
I'm certainly not an expert on this topic, so do you have a better idea than I would about where they were previously before they would switch to a value-based system?
It was called a transactional-based care. And so that's kind of an outdated care system now. So people are trying to transition to value-based care where it's like, hey, what's the best performance or the best doctor to go to for this procedure that is the best value? It's essentially like shopping online where it's like, I'm going to find the best product for the best price. It's the same thing.
Okay,
same idea.
So this is in reaction to kind of that shift towards finding the best possible value in treatment so that they can remain competitive in that marketplace? Yes. Is that the way I'm understanding it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a very interesting trend that's going on in healthcare right now. And it's funny because I was actually doing some research on it a while back, and there was a Harvard Business Review article that was talking about price comparisons in e-commerce and how it's like a good thing that's happening. And it was like way back in 2000 when the internet was kind of like a first, like starting to make its proving grounds and starting to have these e-commerce websites pop up. And they were like, oh, this is a good thing because it forces people to make sure that their products are good and make sure that their prices are fair. So it's kind of an interesting kind of flip the script because it's kind of happening right now in healthcare.
Could you see healthcare and online style shopping having some of the similar challenges that our e-commerce does with just like low-priced, crappy alternatives. Potentially capturing a pretty large share.
If you look at it as like a car mechanic, right? You could go to a car mechanic who offers cheaper services, but you get worse brakes.
Right.
So it's like, I need a pacemaker. I'm going to go to this cheap pacemaker surgeon and get a bad pacemaker.
I guess that's the concern I have, because obviously it makes more sense to go to someone who knows what they're doing in all aspects. But people still do go to the cheaper guy. People do still order the 20-cent version that comes from China instead of the $4 version.
Yeah.
Because they want to save a couple bucks. And I guess my concern is, are people going to take that choice seriously enough to target what may be a potentially higher cost service? Because we're talking about someone's life as opposed to an object, right?
Yeah.
The stakes are a whole lot higher here.
Yep. That's why there's going to be probably some more government regulation, and there has been some governments that have been making some pushes towards regulations for value-based care because of that exact point that you just made. So,
and I certainly don't want this game to be played where every new doctor just sets their prices really low for a while, and then eventually,
because then they'll never be able to pay off their loans. So there's that aspect too. So
there has to be some kind of standard for what something is worth in general, and then some way to then quantify if someone is good enough to receive that.
Right.
And I do hope that it will help hold medical providers a little more accountable, and encourage them to continue to improve, continue to learn, and provide better and better service.
I guarantee you that Amazon is making a big push for value-based care so that they could start providing value-based care doctor services on their website.
Coming soon with Amazon Prime, telehealth,
drones will deliver doctors via the air.
Or you could just get it as a direct download.
Yeah, a UPS guy will deliver a doctor to your door and take a picture of it to make sure that you know that he's standing outside of your door.
Next up, are you smarter than a toothbrush?
Probably not.
Colgate introduced a first-of-its-kind smart toothbrush with new optic sensor technology. This line reads like an advertisement. The Colgate Plaqueless Pro detects biofilm buildup in the mouth so that it can be removed while brushing. It aims to revolutionize oral care by providing precise information in real time, which is specific to each mouth, and the distinct brushing techniques of every individual. The toothbrush uses a light ring around the toothbrush to indicate when buildup is found and when the area is clean to move on. The Colgate Connect app pairs with the brush via Bluetooth. The toothbrush's sensors create a comprehensive map of the user's mouth. The user can consult the app to see where they brushed, where they missed a spot, and if an area is truly clean. The app also provides instant brushing feedback, personalized data, coaching, and care tips. This is
kind of ridiculous.
Many extra steps just to get back to that toothbrush I had as a kid that played Happy Birthday. And I wasn't allowed to stop brushing until it was done.
Like comprehensive map. It's like a
Roomba.
You look at your phone, it's got a map with it's like a terrain map with all the elevation and everything, and then you send in this drone that cleans and zaps out your plaque.
I'm imagining like a Roomba for your mouth where it knows where it needs to go. It kind of has it mapped out. I want to say mentally because it's not like a real physical saved map that you can view, but the robot knows where it can go and where it can't and where it needs to go.
I wonder if that'll ever actually be a thing where it's like you insert this little drone in your mouth and it just vacuums your teeth all day.
The real question is, why are we spending so much time making it so that we can do toothbrushing better instead of just making like literally a mouthpiece that you just put in your mouth, it brushes your teeth, and you take it back out?
Or
like, that's all you need, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like I'm getting some metal detector vibes from it with the light ring. I feel like they should add some type of beeping too. It's like beep, beep. Right. Like you're getting closer to your plaque.
I'm trying to imagine like a light on my toothbrush and like being able to see the light so that I know.
I wonder how many doctors recommend this toothbrush.
4 out of 5.
Ah, wow. Next up, driving funds for healthcare transportation. About 3.6 million Americans miss or delay healthcare each year because of transportation issues, costing around $150 billion. The company RideHealth is trying to change that, and it's raised $6.2 million in a seed round recently. RideHealth connects health plans and healthcare providers to transportation options, such as Uber or a mom-and-pop company in rural areas that don't have ride-sharing cars. It's solely for non-emergency transportation, but won't rule out emergencies in the future. RideHealth helps transportation companies with the nuanced clinical workflow of requesting transportation within healthcare programs.
The word you were looking for mom and pop company in rural area, the word is taxi. You wanted a taxi.
Yeah, mom and pop. That's good.
We've talked about this previously with Lyft getting into the business of potentially
and Uber Health
providing
too.
rides, and Uber Health as well. This company seems to have seen that opportunity and thought, what if I coordinate all of the companies?
Yeah.
And then, of course, take a split of that. And it seems like it's a pretty intriguing idea for a lot of investors. They raised quite a bit of money in their seed round to help get them off the ground.
I wonder, I mean, it seems like the only way that they could, I don't know, it seems like using RideHealth would be more expensive than using Uber Health or Lyft Health. You know what I mean? Because I feel like they'd have to upsell it because it's like, hey, we have way more available. We have double the amount of availability for this transportation, but you have to pay more money because we're taking a cut from Uber Health and Lyft Health, right?
I think it'll work out to be about the same price because the way RideHealth is going to want to do this is to make contracts with the different ride providers to get discounted rates, and then they sell it for the same rates. I guess my question is, why don't people just call an Uber? Like, why do we need RideHealth to help them call an Uber?
Call an Uber and say, hey, drop me off at the doctor's office.
Right.
I don't really know why
it's extra steps.
And rebranded.
I'm not sure exactly how they're going to fit into this in a unique way that makes it somehow more valuable.
Yeah. I think that is a good point because it's like, maybe that's just so that they can tell patients, hey, you can use these services for health. Whereas maybe they're not. Maybe they're just thinking, I need to go to the restaurant, or I want to go out to drink or something like that, so I'm going to use Uber. Whereas they're not really thinking, hey, I need to get to the doctor's appointment. Let me call an Uber. So maybe that's not as popular within like more rural areas.
Do you think that RideHealth is focusing more on the clinical side, like contracting with the actual providers to provide these rides as opposed to the individual riders? Could that be?
Well, I know Uber Health is doing that too. So that's kind of why it's like, this is an interesting, I mean, obviously there's something right about this company because it's making so much seed funding, but who knows?
Right. And I guess there's apparently some kind of enthusiasm over what this could possibly be. So in the coming weeks, we'll probably revisit this story with, an update on kind of where they stand and what they're doing as they kind of develop out this business plan and start putting it into practice.
Transportation is huge in this upcoming decade with healthcare, so that's one thing that's definitely true.
Next up, a perfect smart litter box. We're not kidding. Lulu Pet has the world's first litter box with built-in stool and urine image recognition and excretory behavior algorithms. The goal of the Taiwan-based company tool is to help monitor a cat's health to help your cat live a healthier life. After the cat uses the semi-enclosed litter box, the data is sent back to the app for the owner to monitor. It can also weigh your cat in order to determine if the cat is too fat or needs more food or water. The litter box is Alexa and Google Home enabled.
I love how the marketing person who came up with the description of this needs a raise because they're dancing around the subject of it being a litter box by saying built-in stool and urine image recognition and excretory behavioral program algorithms. Like, what in the world? That is amazing.
I'm just imagining you're in the middle of a business meeting. It's super quiet. and your phone dings because you forgot to turn it off, and it's just a notification to let you know that your cat has used the litter box.
Mr. Snuggles has used the litter box. Do not worry. Everything is normal.
Here are the updates. He's on schedule. He weighs a good amount. Looks like he's well hydrated. Oh my goodness.
Here's a video if you want to check it out too.
There's definitely like a generational difference with people who are, like millennials younger, treating their pets more like children.
Yeah.
And I can see this being something that's kind of popular. I mean, I myself have
especially
a camera
with cat owners
in
too.
my house, right?
Yeah.
I can check in on my dog at any time, and, I can talk to him through the camera if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of weird, I'll admit. And this just goes to the next step. It's like, okay, so while you're already monitoring your pet, because that's kind of the culture we're creating around pets, how about we also let you monitor their health, which could potentially be very beneficial and theoretically could uncover things that are going wrong before you would notice them.
Yeah. I wonder what the
you hang out in the litter box.
I wonder what the Alexa or smart home assistant command is for this.
Right. You've got the litter box kind of tucked away in a back corner. You never go look at it. And you just get home. You're like, Alexa, do I need to clean the litter box?
Alexa, did Mr. Squibbles do his business today?
Exactly.
Alexa, what are your results for your excretory behavioral health algorithms today?
Oh, goodness. I hope you're not eating dinner while listening to our show.
I also want to know what the line is for smart anything. Like, what is the line?
Right, we got smart toothbrushes, smart litter boxes this week. I'm sure that someone makes like a smart leash for your pet so that it can, track its activity and see if it's pulling too hard or something. Yeah. I don't know.
It holds the resistance. If it's one of those that retracts it to a certain amount to make sure that it's comfortable for your pet.
Right,
something outrageous. So who knows?
And it's got buttons on it that you can use to send out a whistle, or to call for help, or to play music,
or to just shoot treats at it.
Am I just coming up with like the best idea right now mid-show? Nobody steal that. I definitely will not buy it if you take my idea.
And with that, let's go on to our next segment. BREACH, Breach Patrol. It's a breach! All of the latest cybersecurity breaches. Welcome to Breach Patrol, where we talk about the latest breaches across the entire globe. Alex, are you ready?
No.
Perfect. First up, we have the chef special tonight is breaches. Landry's Inc., a Houston-based company behind more than 600 U.S. restaurants, hotels, and casinos, warned customers about a data breach that potentially compromised their credit card information. The company said that it likely affected cards used between March 13th and October 17th, 2019. It stated that there was unauthorized access to their network that supports payment processing for restaurants, food, and beverage systems. The breach may have happened when servers swiped customers' credit cards on machines intended to submit food and drink orders to the kitchen and bar, as opposed to separate machines used on point-of-sale terminals.
Why do the ordering systems even allow you to take payments on them in the first place?
I'm not really sure.
That doesn't seem to make sense, right? It's
a smart device.
We're just going to get into the weeds with all of these smart devices and uncover potential problems over and over. Yeah, that seems like a flaw in the first place. But if it is possible to do that, you probably should protect that system in the same way that your point of sales terminals are protected.
It seems like we're living in some sort of breaching dystopia where it's like, I'm going to go to the restaurant. Oh, there goes my credit card information.
I'm so close to just using cash everywhere because it seems like restaurants,
now.
schools, everything, doctor's offices, everything's getting breached.
If you breathe oxygen,
don't order
you're
online.
Going to get breached.
Really, at some point. Keep an eye on all of your information and make sure you check for things like your breaches that you ate for dinner yesterday.
Yeah, and I tried it. The special tonight is really not that good. So you don't want the breach.
It's farm-raised breach, not the wild-caught stuff.
It's not grass-fed. It's bad news.
Next up, crash landing into a breach.
It's not free-range breach.
You're still going. An Air China flight attendant was suspended after publishing personal information on social media about the celebrities he served. The post was made in July by the employee who used a different online name. An aviation industry blogger blew the whistle on the employee for publishing information on about 20 celebrities on Weibo, China's Twitter-like platform. Information included details of their flight records, membership card status, nationality, and date of birth. The flight record cards say passengers' personal information is forbidden to be circulated outside the company, but the employer released it anyways. Air China said the behavior seriously violated their data management rule and that the employee will face severe punishment.
What's interesting here is they said that they released information about celebrities, but everything other than flight records and membership card status is like common knowledge. Because if they're celebrities, people look up their nationality and their date of birth naturally on Google or whatever they use in China as a search engine. So I don't really know if it's that big of a deal here. I mean, obviously it goes against company policy, so it is, but also it's like this isn't really that big of a breach.
Well, we obviously have to draw the line with this because we don't want this kind of thing to continue in the future, because then celebrities won't want to use their services because their employees are publishing information about them. And frankly, there's enough news sources out there publishing information about them. They don't need the flight attendants to do it too. I don't know. I see this as kind of they must have done it in some kind of nefarious way. There's so much information that supposedly they released on a Twitter-like platform. So they would have had to do that like purposely. It's like, this person is on my flight today, flying from here to here. They are blah, 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 blah. Like here's the information. So that I see a big problem with that.
It could be it could be also what happened here is like just goes against the privacy laws of China in general. Cause I know that they're very, like the government is very like set in their ways of privacy and knowing things, but also they're kind of not, because they're also like, I'm going to track everybody and see what they're doing on their search history.
Well, it's privacy,
you know what I mean?
Interpersonally. Like you don't get privacy from the government, of course not. Yeah. That would be just way too much to ask. We can't have that. I don't know. I think of it this way. Like, if it wasn't nefarious, I'm imagining it being like, excuse me, Miss Celebrity, can I get a selfie with you? And then they take a picture and like, look who was on my flight today. That doesn't seem
sweet. Like, I mean, happens every day.
I suppose that could break company policy if you did that while you were on the clock, but I don't know. That's okay. Where does all the other information come in?
I mean, you can clearly see their nationality.
Theoretically, yeah.
Right? If it's a picture.
Like, hey, look who was on my flight today. Their birthday is January 2nd, 1962.
Hashtag 1262. That's like, it's like, I just want to do a hashtag, but it also happened to be the birthday.
Weird.
The takeaway from all of this, though, in all seriousness, is that even if you have policies set in place, make sure that you tell your employees and that they're trained on those policies, so that they know what not to do, and you don't get in a situation where you have to be embarrassed publicly about something like this.
And I know for me, with policies like this, I like to know kind of the background of what's the reasoning. Why are we? Why do we need to do this? Why is it important? What kind of effects could it have if we don't do this? And maybe that's something that's kind of lacking from their policy. They just told them, you can't do this. And they're like, well, why? It doesn't hurt anyone. This information's publicly available. And that's it for this week's wrap-up of your weekly healthcare news. Join us next week, where we will speculate wildly on whatever new technology has come out in the healthcare space. I'm Alex Ross.
And I am Matt Moneypenny.
And we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of The Bandage. This week's episode was written and produced by eTactics. eTactics is a leading revenue cycle solutions organization committed to providing innovative, web-based solutions that improve our clients' cash management and customer relationships. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.